by all means, I think, I believe that Stalin and the leadership of the Russian Communist Party, Bolshevik, that's how it was called in those times, committed genocide against the Ukrainian nation. And I agree with my friend, Professor Roman Serbin, that the genocide was committed over a time span of approximately 15 years, from, or maybe even 16, from 1932, spring, summer, until probably 1947. The most evident sign that genocide was committed was, of course, in the first 2 years. In the first 2 years, an assault took place against the Ukrainian nation. It is very difficult to find the reasons for it in documents. Not the evidence of it, but the reasons, the motive. Why? The only documents are related to Stalin's letters to Kaganovich, in which he signaled the danger that Ukraine might go over to Poland. But let's face facts. Facts are that in spite of the dictatorial nature of the Leninist regime in the first half of the 1920s, Ukraine experienced a resurrection. A resurrection, Korenizatsiya, resurrection of culture, language, traditions, and so on and so forth. That is established. This alarmed Stalin. Stalin wanted the entire Soviet Union to be under tight control, and additionally, he also wanted to extract from the peasantry as much resources, as many resources as possible, in order to be able to launch a campaign of forced industrialization. And he viewed with reason, Ukraine as the most difficult place where to implement this policy, because Ukrainian peasantry had basically re-established a connection, a cultural and historical connection with the previous centuries. They were quick in establishing, during the 1920s, taking advantage of the net. They were quick in creating a mindset of farming, not peasantry, but farming. That is, the person who tills the land is the owner of the land. So there is no feudal lord and no serf. There is a farmer. This is a very bourgeois and advanced concept, typical more of Western Europe than ever in Eastern Europe. In addition to this, there was a resurrection of the Ukrainian Church, both the Greek Catholic and the Orthodox Church. And there were Ukrainian intellectuals, brilliant Ukrainian intellectuals, who were led, of course, by Mikhailo Hrushevsky, who were working hard to establish the final rules of the Ukrainian language, grammar, syntax, etc., and to write in Ukrainian, which is a separate language. This was hard to accept, and even today it's hard to accept for the Russian mindset. The Russian mindset has a hard time understanding, for example, that Belarus is not Bielorussia, but it's Belarus. So it's Rus, not Russia. Rus is different. Rus was born in Kiev. Everybody has a problem with, because the Russian mindset whereby Belarus is Belarusia, that is Belarusia, etc., is widespread. The name Ukraine is accepted, of course, but the concept that Ukraine is separate from Russia and has its own history, its own traditions, its own culture, its own literature, its own language is even today, very difficult to understand. So, continuation of this, the Holodomor was an assault on the three main pillars of the Ukrainian nation: the peasantry, the free peasantry, the intellectuals, and the churches. All three were cracked down upon almost simultaneously in order to modify substantially the national character of Ukraine. That was the attempt. And this matches perfectly well the definition of genocide that was given by Raphael Lemkin, the Polish lawyer who escaped from Poland, went to the United States, and in the 1940s, during World War II, created the word genocide and explained what it was about. So there is little doubt about it. And one thing that there is no doubt as far as I'm concerned, and the problem now is to make this known, because the Ukrainian genocide happened for the most part, not entirely, in peacetime. Contrary to the genocide of the Armenians, or the genocide of the Jews, or the Gypsies, or the disabled, there were several genocides committed by Hitler, like there were several committed by Stalin. Having been committed in peacetime, it was easier for the Soviet authorities of the time to cover it up. That is, to hide what they were doing. To hide, for example, the fact that the Ukrainians, the Ukrainian people, were forbidden to move out of Ukraine. That is also another element that could be added to the criteria established by Lemkin. Fencing people in. Auschwitz, okay, which is Auschwitz and also, Ukraine. You could not go to Russia, you could not go to Belarus, you could not go anywhere, let alone Romania or Poland. That was completely out of the question, which were foreign countries under capitalist regimes. There is a difference between ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing means you want people to go away. So either you kill them or you force them to emigrate, you force them to leave a certain area. Okay? I'm not saying that this is better or worse. I'm saying that it's different. But if you fence people in and you want to kill them all, that is something to be highlighted, you see? So in conclusion, I'm not saying, of course, Lemkin doesn't say, and I am not certainly saying that Stalin wanted to kill all Ukrainians. No, it is clear that Stalin didn't want to eliminate all Ukrainians, like contrary to Hitler, who wanted to eliminate all Jews and all Gypsies and all, inferior races. But it doesn't matter. The word genocide still applies because the object of a genocide, and here Lemkin again is extremely important, is to alter permanently character, the composition, the traditions of a certain group of people. And Stalin wanted to coerce Ukraine into submission, coerce Ukraine into accepting his policies, his priorities, into accepting the collectivization of the land, into accepting Russian hegemony inside of the Soviet Union, etc., etc. So he proceeded more or less deliberately. That is another factor that must still be clarified. Was the Holodomor planned coldly? So, given the more random nature of the Stalinist regime and of his tyranny, it is likely that we will never find a document or any evidence of Stalin having said, let's kill enough Ukrainians for them to accept my policies. I don't think so. I don't think we'll ever find this. But the facts point in that direction. There are enough facts by now to point in that direction. I've been to Moscow in 2014. I've been to Moscow 3 months after the occupation of Crimea. And I went to various research institutes. I met with people whom I knew from when I was a student, etc. Those were the times of the Helsinki conference. So when I was a student, there were a lot of international meetings, youth and students international. So I met a lot of people, including many Soviet citizens, and I noticed that in Russia the concept of the death of millions of peasants because of Stalin's collectivization is accepted.
Yeah,
they accept. It's widely accepted. It's not a taboo. It's accepted that peasants from many ethnicities perished, which is true. Ukrainians, Russians, Kazakhs, mostly, but others as well. What is not accepted, interestingly, is the Ukrainian specificity. That is not accepted. Starts telling the average Russian scholar, hey, wait a minute, okay, yes, peasants from all over, yes, collectivization hit hard, true. But in Ukraine, there was also simultaneous crackdown on the churches and on the intellectuals. At this point, the objections are, well, but also in Russia, intellectuals, also in Kazakhstan, etc., etc. Could be true, but there was a Ukrainian specificity. It's undeniable, which then continued later with the purges, with the destruction of the demographic records. We are unable, due to the destruction of the demographic records, we are unable to reach a conclusion about the number of victims. The figure, which is beyond any possible doubt, 3.5 to 4 million Ukrainians killed because of the Holodomor, could be more, but we don't have the records because they have been destroyed, and they must have been destroyed for a reason. So, but it's more than enough to speak of genocide and to speak of the successful, unfortunately, the successful achievement of this plan, because Ukraine indeed, for a number of decades, was forced into the Soviet context, and only after several decades, almost a half century, did Ukraine reawaken and start connecting all the dots of its recent history, which also led to independence in 91 and everything subsequent.